DMZ loot is everything. So in this video, I'm going to be going over the best loot spots so you can have all the gear and all the money you'd ever need. As we get into it, if you guys find this video useful and you want to come back for more DMZ content like this, then please subscribe. But the first location I'm going to be talking about is the Al Malik Airport. And if you spawn here, then oh my god, you are going to have the best start ever. Well, unless there isn't another team making their way for this spot. Underneath the airport, you have this little underground section where there is a ridiculous amount of these rare crates, all containing amazing weapons, armor vests, and cash. So it's a great first place to go. But once you've done that, make your way up the stairs, and right here is going to be the entrance into the actual airport itself. But before you even enter, you're going to find a bunch of rare crates by the doors. And already I've got 13,000, I've got gold bars, I've got self-revive, tier 3 armor. But inside the terminal is where the loot just gets dialed up to 11. This has to be one of the greatest loot spots in the game in terms of amount of crates that you can open, as it just feels like it is never ending. The only downside to this area is that you will come across some pretty armored enemies, so you better be prepared. And the best method is to just take it slow, taking out these enemies and then working your way through the airport. Aside from just finding rare crates, you'll also find cash registers, which are going to have a ton of cash. And before you realize it, you already have a fully stacked loadout. As you can see here, I have 3-plate vest, a large backpack, durable gas mask, gold bars to sell, and a kill streak. Like, this is honestly one of the best spawns in the entire DMZ. But let's move on to another loot spot, which is my personal favorite in all of DMZ, and this is in Sour Village, and it's the worst kept secret at this point in DMZ. There is a hotel which you need a key card in order to open the rooms for, but there is a ladder on the side of the hotel which will take you straight to the rooftop, where there are going to be these 4 skylights, and each skylight that's facing east is going to be a locked hotel room that you need a key to open. But if you drop down through these skylights, you completely bypass needing the key, and you'll find some incredible loot. Usually you'll find a very good weapon lying around, as well as piles of cash. There'll be 1 to 2 rare loot crates that will have some great stuff. There'll be classified documents, gold bars, and in one of the rooms it also has a golden desert eagle, which is actually part of a later faction mission, but is there every time you play DMZ. And from 2 rooms you can easily get a ton of cash and loot to sell at buy stations, so to equip yourself with everything you need in DMZ. It's also usually one of the quieter parts of the map, as not a lot of players come here. So make the most of these 2 hotel rooms, and then once you've got everything, get a vehicle and drive away. Now, you will find some DMZ games where randomly this hotel will become a stronghold instead of how you're seeing it here. So if it is a stronghold and you see these skylights boarded up, don't worry, it doesn't mean that IW have patched it or anything. It just means for that particular game it's a stronghold. The next great loot spot in DMZ is going to be this whole area here in Sarif Bay. Now, if you spawn near here like I did, getting a boat here is very simple to get to, but I will warn you that a lot of AI can spawn around here whilst you're looting, so be very, very careful. But there are so many crates that you can discover here that it was actually quite unbelievable. There are kitchens with rare crates, as well as fridges stocked up with tons of different liquor bottles and wines. So if you're doing any missions that require you to get loads of those, then this is the best place to go. Every corridor and alleyway that I went through in here just seemed to have more crates. Even in like bathrooms, there was rare crates just lying everywhere. So when you are looting here, take your time, make sure you've carefully looked through every single room, because you don't want to miss any of the crates around here. But by the end of it, I had $25,000, my friend had 12,000, and also had a load of gold bars to sell. So I call that a very successful spawn indeed. And the next area I'm going to recommend is the Satik Cave Complex, but specifically all of these small little huts and houses that are around the caves. It doesn't seem it, but all of these huts contain rare crates with tons of amazing loot and cash in them. Now, a little warning, as there are going to be a lot of tier 2 armored AI around this area, so they are going to make it a little bit of a difficult time for you to loot around here. But within no time at all, you should have a good amount of loot and weaponry. They'll be able to take these guys out and continue looting around this cave complex without coming into too much trouble. This doesn't just go for these huts and shacks that are on the higher floor that connects with the upper caverns of the cave, but even if you hop down, there are a few more houses and stuff lying around with loot inside, so be sure to make sure you've not missed any. Now, there is the actual cave complex itself, but this will contain the highest tier armored enemies in DMZ, which is going to be very, very difficult, and the loot within the upper caverns of the cave complex itself is just not worth risking going in there. You can find way better loot in these shacks. So moving on to the next loot spot, which is also one of my favorites, and if you get a great spawn for this, then this is the best way to start your game, and it's the train. I don't know why, but a lot of players seem to just completely ignore the train going around Al Mazrah. If you're one of the first players to get to the train, then you're going to be rewarded with an incredible amount of loot. Like, every single carriage is full of rare rare crates, supply crates. There's even a hidden cache on one of the trains, which can give you some very specific loot. And there's also a lot of ways to get self revives, armor plates, and weapons. And by the end of looting the train, you should have a really good loadout, so you can go ahead and do what you need to do in the DMZ. The only downside to the train is that AI are attracted to you when you're passing them on the train, and somehow they can shoot through the walls of the train carriages, so just bear that in mind. This next loot spot is a really surprising one for me, but it's the Yum Yum Burger store within Al Mazrah City, and the reason why it's such a good loot spot is because it has a ton of cash registers that you can just quickly go to and just suck up all of the cash that's lying within it. On top of that, we also have a load of fridges behind these that also contain some valuable things that you can sell for good money, and sometimes there's even cash for some reason in the fridges. I don't know why they've kept it in there. You can find some very expensive wines, some less expensive wines that can still be sold for good money at the shop. If you're passing by Al Mazrah City and just want to get a load of cash real quick, then this is a place that you should check out. Now, this next loot spot might have come as quite an obvious one, but it's something that even I ignore quite a bit in DMZ, and you might as well, and it's the loot cache supply drops that will drop about halfway into the game. It's definitely worth trying to go for these, because as you see from this one, I got some incredible loot. I got a 12 grand gold skull, a large backpack, $8,000 documents, and 5,000 encrypted hard drive, and that was just for me driving over to a location I was going to anyway. The only downside to these supply drops is that you can't tell if a player has already looted it or not. But if you see one dropping near you, I would absolutely recommend going to it sooner rather than later to get some free money. Now, this next loot area is a good spot, but I would recommend only going here if you're fully kitted up and you have a squad of 3, because this place is guarded by some of the strongest enemies I've come across in the DMZ. And this is the Saeed City shopping mall. Normally you need a key to get into here, but there is a car park at the back which you can take. It will lead you to the rooftop of the shopping center, and there'll be again a few of those skylight entrances that you can use to drop down into the mall, or there is an elevator that you can use that will take you to the bottom floor. On occasion, this place can have a lot of rare crates for you to open, but again, this place is guarded by the strongest AI in the game, so there is a huge risk when coming here, and sometimes it might not have the surplus of crates that it can always have. But outside of just these areas to drop, there is also secret hidden caches which are going to be hidden around the map in very secret areas, and if you learn some of the locations for these and you spawn near these, then you can go to these straight away and maybe start off the game with some incredible loot. We have 6 hidden caches to show you, and we're starting off with this one in Tarak Village, which is going to be all the way to the far top left of the map, and you're going to be looking for it right near this pool of water. Come to my marker here, you'll see between these palm trees we have a hidden loot cache which is literally in the ground itself. The second one we're going to go to is right in the top corner between Al Mazrah City and Tarak Village, between these palm trees and water here. It's going to be off to the right near these set of rocks, and again, this is really hard to spot, but inside is a radioactive container which contains a $500 drill, which is actually a pretty rare item to find. The third one we're going to be going to is in these set of 2 islands here, east of Al Samam Cemetery, and it's going to be under this stretch of water here. You're going to be swimming all the way down near towards the back middle, and as you see, another radioactive container where we got some cash, but some gas masks and a note. And in another game, I spawned right by this thing, so I went ahead and searched it, and I found some money, an LMG, and a durable gas mask, which isn't bad for the first thing I've looted. And the last hidden cache is going to be here near Zarqwa Hydroelectric, and as you can see here, it's just again one of those really hidden ones that you might just run past and not even realize, but it's definitely worth having a look. Now, there are probably more hidden caches in this map that I have not even discovered yet, so if you do know where any are, then do yourself a favor and check those as well. If you've not spawned by any of these really good loot spots, but you want to just get something very quick, then going to an ammo depot is without doubt the best strategy to try and find yourself some gear early on. It's something I recommend every player to do before making their way to a loot spot, because you need to have guns and armor ready just in case you come across AI or real players. And some of the other greatest loot spots can be found in those which are locked away and you need a key for. However, currently you might not actually need a key for some of these places, and if you do what I'm showing you in the video, you can get yourself into some secret areas that previously were locked. As shown here for the downtown Al Mazrah post office, if you get yourself in here, I'm not really recommending anything other than using a key, of course, and there is some incredible loot to be found in here. Like, we're talking a crazy amount of special chests for you. However, be warned, any of these marked areas that need keys for are going to have some of the highest tier armored enemies enemies that you can find is more likely than not going to kick your butt. So be sure that you are ready, armored, and prepared when you're making your way to any of these. If you're interested in seeing what the best loot spots are going to be with keys, then let me know if you want to see that video and I'll work on it. What is your favorite loot spot in DMZ? Let me know in the comments below.